I'll go crazy over this one song, and I'll just like work on it and work on it and work on it, and then eventually just kind of I burn myself out.
Welcome to the Indie Seat. My name is Nick Olivera.
So yeah,
My guest today is the driving creative force behind the South Florida-based dream pop band Bed Scene, Nick Aponte. Nick, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Singer, songwriter, you're handling everything.
Yes.
I always ask for singer-songwriters who kind of bring the whole band together. I mean, what's that process like, trying to communicate with 4 or 5 different people?
It's fun. Usually when you're in the studio or just by yourself putting together the music, you have this idea of how you want everything to sound like, and you have like full control over everything. But when you bring other people, other minds to play the things that you had in mind or that you wrote, it kind of makes it a little bit more interesting, and then it adds a little bit more of a difference, I guess. It's interesting. I always like the ending outcome of especially when it sounds good, or when you work towards getting what you originally worked on in the studio to sound really tight.
You like the idea of being able to bounce ideas off of somebody else.
Yeah, and then ultimately it's just kind of like a fun sort of experience when you're rehearsing these songs, and then you're kind of it's like, hey, try doing this, try working on this, and looking for sounds on the keyboard, or making sure the bass sounds like a specific way, or the drums too. It's cool. It's a cool project,
I hear your guys' music, and you've got all these different elements. I mean, you've got a mini MPK machine. It's like this keyboard that makes beats. You've got electric guitars. You've got drums. I mean, what is there almost like a science to the type of music that you make?
I wouldn't say science. It's just kind of like you mentioned the MPK Mini. I use that mainly in the studio. That's more of a when I'm composing, I'll use it for quick ideas and putting things together. And then when I want to perform quick beats by myself, I'll use that. But when we perform live, it's full guitars, bass. Our keyboardist has I call it we call it the holy trinity of synthesizers, because he has a Nord Electro, a Prophet, and a Moog Fatty. So it's 3 most I think most iconic keyboards.
You could probably score a film with all 3 of those.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
If you were presented with the opportunity to score a film, would you take that chance?
Yeah, absolutely. Before, well, I still do, but a lot of my background is in composing music for commercials and advertisement. So a lot of me as a musician and a songwriter, I feel like I finessed a lot of that when I was working as a composer for commercials.
What kind of work were you doing?
I did several for the Latin American market. I did one that was actually kind of fun and interesting story was for the 2016 Honda Civic was an early version, or a demo version of a Bed Scene song. That I kind of came out of that, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And after that, after a year, the license of that song it expires and stuff. So I was like, I want to keep that song, that idea. So I ended up using it and rehashing it for an actual Bed Scene song.
What are some tricks that you probably picked up from the advertising scene to be able to incorporate that into your music now?
How to listen to a song and sort of pick out each individual specific detail and element of a song, being oh, that's cool, and knowing how to use those details to evoke specific emotions and stuff. A lot of advertisement, as you know, is all about happiness and selling like the product, and like the song has to be catchy, and like when you're doing these things, or when you're composing, you have to know like how to sort of manage a melody to where it kind of makes the listener kind of feel good and be like, oh, that sounds dope, I want to buy that. The catchier it is, the better. And I come from like I remember like back in the day, I was really into just like really out there stuff. And the whole composing for commercials kind of grounded me in this sort of understanding the value of like a pop song. I was not about it before, and now I'm like, yeah, the poppier sometimes the better.
It was like a crucible of art and commerce.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. It was very psychological in a way. You have to know how to write a catchy song and know how to execute that quickly, because a lot of it's based on time, and you have to know how to output quick.
So your music tends to fall into the genre of dream pop, am I right?
Yes, it has been labeled that.
Like, do you resent the label, or are you accepting of it?
No, I accept it. I mean, I use it sometimes to describe it. It's hard as a songwriter sometimes to describe your own music without sounding pretentious. But yeah, I mean, I'll use dream pop. I'll use indie rock. I'll use new wave. I like using new wave just because it's I've lately have been gravitating more towards that sort of style, even though it's such a broad and vague. It's like calling a band like alternative. It's like, okay, alternative, new wave.
How alternative are they?
Yeah, it's like new wave. New wave could be the Ramones, and that's like super early pop punk. But new wave could also be Devo. It's very, very broad, but it still sort of falls under this sort of attitude, I guess is the word, or sort of umbrella of sound that I kind of like to identify with in a way.
Can we talk about American Dream? I always love getting into the nitty-gritty of an artistic project. What was the timetable on producing that track?
That song was actually like written a while back. A lot of these songs are like, they start off as ideas, and I'll just like leave them there for a good while, and then I'll hear the potential of it as I keep listening. Some of them I just kind of like forget about. I'm just like, whatever, I'll put it in a in a folder and forget about it. But that one was actually like, I wasn't planning on releasing that one until a friend of mine was like, yo, you should do that. You should release it. Like, it's a good song. That friend is actually the director of our video, of our music video for Vile. But yeah, it's funny. He was actually the one that was like, yo, like, you should finish that, because that song was like in a, I wasn't planning on finishing it for the longest time.
How often does that happen to you as a musician, where you have like that one song that you're not nuts about and it takes off, and then you have the one that you labor over and it doesn't really, I guess, land with audiences?
Happens all the time. I'll go crazy over this one song, and I'll just like work on it, and then eventually just kind of I burn myself out and I kind of just like leave it alone. A lot of the times what ends up working is I'll take a break from it and come back to it, and I'll have like new ideas. And as a musician, you grow with new ideas every day, so some ideas that you started months ago, you come back with a fresh pair of ears, and ends up being like, oh, I can do this on it. And for American Dream, I only had one verse and a chorus, and then the more I heard it, the more I started like reading and applying sort of these musical concepts. I added like this long instrumental bridge part that like I was super proud of when I wrote it. I was like, oh, this is awesome. So,
do you think artists have an obligation to comment on current events, or do you think they have the right to just make their art anonymously?
That's a good question. I'm I don't like to sort of express like political affiliation or talk about specific things like that. Mainly just because I don't know, I tend to have my own personal beliefs on those things, but I don't think it's a wrong thing. You know, I think if you have like a strong opinion towards something, you should, as an artist especially, because you have that platform as an artist. I'm just kind of a little bit hesitant, because I also don't want to, you know, I don't want to say something that I'll go against, like, or that I'll end up contradicting myself or something in the future or something like that, but yeah. Bed Scene, you could follow us on facebook.com/bedscenemusic. Instagram is @bed_scene, and Twitter the same, @bedscenemusic. So, yeah.
And my name is Nick Olivera. You've been watching The Indie Seat, brought to you by Context of a Generation. Tune in next time.
So that was the Indie Seat. If you like what you saw and you want to be a partner, or if you want to collaborate with us, even if you're an artist and you want to submit your work, check out our website, contextofageneration.org, or go ahead and submit an email to us at submit@contextofageneration.org. And for all the artists, make sure you put your name, your social media handles, and attach some of your work as well. And for those who are interested in being a partner or collaborating, please email us and we would love to reach back out. Peace. That was the Indie Seat. Thank you.